Krav pose, also called Kakasana in Sanskrit or body position, is one of the very first positions you will try to do balance on your arms. Most likely there is a good attention to the distinction between Kakasana and Bakasana. Kakasana is the position of the crow and has slightly more bent elbows than Bakasana. Bakasana is the position of the cream, that is, of the crane, has the arms most elongated and the knees are precisely stuck against the chest. So this second version requires a little more abdominal strength, more arm and shoulder strength. But let's see. For now, Kakasana is how to actually get in pose, how to prepare for pose, and how to modify if. You need the pose itself, which is a pose that will require a lot of flexibility and strength in the wrists, arms, shoulders, and abdomen in the core. Because it's what will help us stay with the knees in balance, it's a little higher towards the chest. So to prepare this pose, it is good to warm up these points. And during the various practices you will make, go to train these points to make sure you are ready to then get to your Kakasana. Or anyway, build it step by step. A couple of warm-up positions to do to get into this pose are, for example, the warm-up of the wrists that I will show you how to do now, and the warm-up of the core of the abdomen and shoulders. So I will show you a couple of exercises that you can do in your practice to warm up these points and prepare for your body position, starting from the mat. Simply bringing your hands to the ground, keeping your wrists under your shoulders and your knee under your hips. From here, you just start to bring your fingertips out, your fingers out, and you just start to carry a little weight between the left and right. As you carry the weight, try to carry the weight right to the fingertips, back to the left hand and right hand. So, it will already help to warm up the different points in the wrists a little bit to prepare for your poop, a crow position from which you return to the center. Instead, bring the fingertips of your hands to your knees and start pushing your shoulders and hips back so that you can feel the stretch in the front of your arm. It depends a little bit how you want to see if it's actually front or back. Be careful not to lift your wrists at this point. Keep the good on the ground, feeling right with the extension in the front. You can connect with the exhale, inhale, and remain exhale. I go back, I breathe. I go back to the center, I breathe, I move back. Once you've done some to warm up your forearms, except that we need it as a force for this thing, you go back to the center and bring your fingertips back to the beginning of the ball. And from here, you bring one palm to the ceiling and you keep the other on the ground. By doing this, give that stretch, that force in the left wrist, keeping the right hand active. So be careful not to fall completely on the left wrist and breathe. And I exhale. I try to carry more and more weight on my left hand, but not completely on my left hand. It could hurt your wrist. When you're ready, change and go with your right hand, then right wrist up. I keep my left hand on the ground. Actually, you can do this with both hands, on the contrary. Honestly, this for me weighs a little too much on the wrists, so I recommend always do that. Find it with the stretch, but without it being painful. Otherwise, it means we are moving too far forward. Too far. Back in the middle, relax your hips for a moment. Face the ground, face the mat. And from here, you just start turning your hands and wrists. So in this way, creating circles, and just to go warm up your wrists again. Then start with the palms of your hands together, and then join your thumbs. Then join your back of your hands, join your fingertips together, and bring your palms together again. So you're going to do some circles in one direction, and then once you've done some circles, you're going to do some circles. Then you will make circles of turns in the opposite direction. If you want to connect with the breath, inhale fingertip up and exhale fingertip down, then inhale and exhale once you have done a few turns. At this point, relax hands, arms, wrists. And we do another exercise to warm up the wrists, so always in a sitting position, whether it's with your legs crossed or kneeling, as you feel better, but your arms up. Start closing your hands in a fist, and then extend your fingertips up. Then I close and extend, connecting with your breath. You can breathe, close, inhale, open, exhale, close, inhale, open. And do this exercise 10, 20, 30 times as well. This will warm up and prepare your forearms precisely because you will feel the nerves that are activated. And that's actually what we need for haram balances, for balance positions on the arms. After you have relaxed your hands and arms, let's warm up your shoulders, arms, and core and abdomen. To do this more classic exercise, just to get to the plank, you can either do the plank in a straight line or kneel on the ground, no problem. From here, take a breath with your breath, bend your elbows, lower your chest to the ground, and try to lower your chest, shoulders, and hips together. Inhale and exhale, I stretch again, exhale, exhale, I bend my elbows against my body, inhale. And I breathe again. I stretch last time. I breathe, I breathe, I bend. Be careful not to drop your hips. Keep your hips, chest, shoulder in line, and inhale, exhale again, stretch, relax for a moment. Let go of your sides towards your heels, hands, arms, shoulders. And when you're ready, take me back to the mat. This time, another point to warm up and prepare for our claw pose is to stretch and create a little more space in the hip flexors. So we take us to the ground, take a deep breath, hands and arms up, feet and legs in front of you, exhale. Bring your knees to your chest, hands on your shins, and inhale from here. I exhale. Lift my neck, head, shoulders, and try to bring my shoulders as close as possible to my knees. Inhale and exhale, release, inhale, stretch again, exhale. Knee to chest, raise, head, neck, shoulders, tighten as much as possible. Inhale and exhale, let go and stretch. Inhale, last. And exhale, knees to chest, hands on shins, raise neck, head, shoulders, and maintain position. Look towards the ceiling, inhale and exhale, release. Give still a nice stretch. I breathe and relax my body. We're ready now to get to our Klaus body location. Now there are actually several ways, in fact a couple of ways to get into the pose. One is to prepare the ground pose, and I will show you this first. Because once you understand how to do it from the ground, then it's much easier to get to balance directly on the hands. So starting from the ground, imagine as if the ceiling was above you. In fact, the floor above you and the ceiling on the ground. So on the contrary, the knees will reach the chest as much as possible. And hold your arms up in your hands. So now imagine the floor above. Therefore, the hands will be active as if there is the floor pressing against the hands. The arms will be strong and active, the shoulders will be pure. So I'm not relaxing here on the ground, but it's an activation as if it's actually pushing me from the ground to the ceiling, because obviously we're going to be the other way around. While you're trying to keep your toes together here, take a breath. While exhaling, try to tighten your knees to your triceps as much as possible. This is exactly your claw pose, but from the ground, and I breathe and exhale. I let my hips go to the ground, my head and neck relax. And we do it twice, I inhale and exhale. I raise my knees to my triceps and keep my hands active as if they were pushing up. I stay. I let go of my last breath and exhale my knee to my triceps, my hands and arms up. I keep it activated. Keep pushing your hands up. It's like there's a floor above you, and with the next breath, release, relax your hands, wrists, arms, legs, and feet, giving it a nice chakrat and a nice relaxation. Great. Now instead, Now that we have figured out how to activate our crow bows from the ground, if you do this training from the ground, you will go to understand exactly what is the activation of the core, what is the position of the knees, the hands, the arms, how they feel, and the shoulders as well. Therefore, it will be much easier to then get in balance directly up in your crow bows position. One thing to be careful in crow bows is often the fear of falling forward. So I suggest in doing this pose, go in the most gentle and relaxed way possible. So don't rush to get to the pose and try not to jump to get to the pose, but build the pose step by step. If you should be feeling like you're falling forward, which is usually the biggest fear, simply the most important thing to do is to bring your chin to your chest immediately. By doing this, you immediately protect the neck, throat, and neck, just that. Then anyway, know that if it were to be that you fall forward, the space is really small, or anyway, you can always have pillows or a blanket in front of you. I'll explain the changes to you in a minute. Then we come in the pose in itself, wrists under the shoulders. I open up the diads between them well, creating space so that they have a good foundation. A good foundation. Foundation. I put my hips up, back, like it was some kind of upside down. But I walk with my feet as close as possible, not too close. Otherwise, it would be impossible to get into a pose, but about one, as if I had the balance well balanced on my feet, and slowly I was able to slowly transfer it to my hands, okay? From here, I bend my elbows. Be careful not to bend them outward, but inward, as if you were bending your elbows to your knees. Keep looking down for balance and push well to the ground, fingertips in the hands on the ground. Elbows slightly bent. When I'm ready, I raise the heel of your feet. It will help you bring your knees a little higher and position your knees as high as possible on your arms. Ideally, if it's the first time you're going, you can have your knees above your elbows. If you can, bring your knees a little higher on the triceps or even inside the armpits. This will then invite you to reach Kakasana, as I mentioned before, because the knees are even higher. Try not to have your knees outside your arms. That's because if you have it outside, it's actually a little bit harder to pose because you go and activate the core even more and it's not in perfect alignment actually. Whereas if you have your knees on the triceps, I know you will get hurt at first, it's normal. But then the skin and muscle build up and it will be easy to get in the pose. Or at least you will no longer feel that slight discomfort. And once you're in position with your knees high, as if you're creating a step between elbows and knees between bras and legs. From here, slowly, I begin to transfer the weight forward to my wrists, knuckles and fingers, the fingertips of my hands. And once they're in balance, the arms are active, the shoulders are active. So be careful not to drop your shoulders forward. And at the same time, be careful not to open your elbows. Because if you open your elbows, of course, your knees will open and you will lose your balance. As I move the weight forward, is more nearly finding that balance than actually a strength position. So I will carry the weight forward and forward, step by step, to the fingertips. Look down until you actually feel that there is no weight in your feet, and you can lift them both while keeping the hallucinations. This will give you more stability while keeping your shoulders active. I look down on the ground. I breathe in when you are ready to come out of the pose with an exhale. I transfer the weight back. My feet come to the ground and release. When you're ready to release the pose, always give your wrists a little twist. They're probably going to feel a little bit of pressure at this point, so you can turn them around like this, okay? Now, how do you change the pose if you're building it slowly, step by step? First of all, I was explaining to you earlier, if the fear is to fall forward, I will give you an example. Now you can have a cushion, even a front block, but as you can see, if you're going to fall forward, I'm going to move a little bit back. Okay, so let's say I'm going to fall forward, I'm going to move a little bit back like this. I have a blanket under my head. If you have to bring your chin to your neck, to your chest right away, and you do that, you will fall with your head forward. I will bring it back if I take it to your chest and down, so just the top of your head will touch the ground, and maybe having a pillow or blanket under you, nothing happens. I recommend lying on my chest because the steps are not high. So even if you fall with your forehead, the steps are not high. But there may be a chance that you will hurt your neck a little, so lying on your chest, this protects me immediately. Another way you have to prepare your pose is to have a block under your head, which means when you get into a pose, you will just use the block as a head position, so you will have more confidence and not fall forward. Although I have to tell the truth, I find it a little uncomfortable because sometimes there is a need to understand where to place the block. In building the pose, also try not to jump, not to be in a hurry, and raise your feet, maybe one at a time. So there is no, you try not to be in a hurry, to want to come by force with both feet high. But maybe build your pose, I only raise one foot, I find stability. Then I raise the other foot. And as you practice, you may then get to the point where you are strong and stable enough to lift both feet. I keep my feet tightly against my hips, so I keep my shoulders as high as possible and my shoulders as active as possible. The moment I drop them, I probably lose activation in the front for what is more a matter of balance and moving the weight slightly forward. Find that middle way between the two to remain stable in the pose. I recommend building the pose step by step, building the safety in the pose step by step. One more thing, be careful. The last one, I swear. When you're in a pose, the trend is to close your back a little bit, find a little bit of a ball, but try to find that stretch from your head to the last vertebra to make the pose more graceful, gentle, and relaxed. Looking ahead to the ground will help you stay stable and keep breathing. One way to get out of the pose is what I showed you with your feet on the ground, but if you're building the pose and you want to make it more challenging, a little more challenging. Another way to release the pose is to activate the core even more and then get to plank. I'll show you this. So from my cloud, I move the weight to one hand, an arm, a shoulder. And the other with the other leg. In my case, I move the weight to the right. The left part of the body is more active. I stay stable. I breathe with my breath. I step back with my left foot, then join my right foot. And I find myself in a plank. The same thing you can do with the right first, the left then and then. Working with time, you will actually be able to move both feet back with the activation of the core, then get in. Plank directly in a very graceful way. And of course, it's all a matter of practice and step by step. For questions, advice, or doubts, feel free to sign me up. More than happy to help me in your practice. See you at the next New York pose.